Now let's go to Alicia. She's looking into what exactly triggered the Mueller report in the first place.
Yeah, Kai, we're gearing up to bring you the very latest on the Mueller report when it comes out. Now, the investigation's been going on for nearly 2 years, and we want to help you better understand how we got here in the first place. So May of 2016, the investigation started with a warning by leaders from Australia about George Papadopoulos. Now, he was Donald Trump's presidential campaign foreign policy advisor. In May of 2016, Papadopoulos was in London where he allegedly bragged to an Australian diplomat that the Russians had dirt on Hillary Clinton. Now, just a few months later from that, in May, WikiLeaks started publishing emails that were stolen from the Democratic National Committee's servers. And then soon after that, still in the May time, FBI launching an investigation into the possible links between the Russians and Trump campaign officials. All right, so a year later, come 2017, several congressional committees had gotten involved and launched investigations of their own. And about that same time, President Trump was firing FBI Director James Comey. Now, with Comey out of the picture and the fact that Trump's Attorney General Jeff Sessions recused himself from all of the Russian matters, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed Special Counsel Robert Mueller to lead the investigation. Hopefully, we find out what comes of this investigation. I mean, we've been talking about it for 2 years now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are interested to see, more of the report than was initially released. But as our megaphone shows there, not many people think it will make an impact no matter what they see.